Why, hello there. Thanks so much for clicking. My name is Stephanie and I'm an alcoholic. It's been 4.5 years since I've tasted alcohol, and my sobriety date is March 9th, 2021. So today we're going to pick up where we left off on the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're just doing a Big Book study, which is a nice, slow read through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous right here. If you need a big book, go ahead and message me and I will find a way to get you one. If you want to get one yourself, just look up Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book online, and you can find one on the AA.org website, alcoholicsanonymous.org, or any bookstore. They're very affordable. So, before we get into our Big Book study where we left off, I do want to review the steps that we've gone over. Now, as a person who has been studying this program for 5.5 years, I do believe that the steps, most of them, can be done in any order, out of order, other than 1 and 12. I think those two steps kind of have to be done at the beginning and the end, and pretty much every day through. So the numerical order of the steps is much less important than the quality of your approach and application of these steps. When you hear folks say that AA doesn't work, it's because they don't work the program. This is not something you can just show up at the meeting and expect sobriety. It's much more than that. I'm literally studying this book, and I'm replacing every time I hear the word God with love. It's a choice I had to make. I had to get over myself, my own self-bias that was imposed upon me by my abusive father, who was also Southern Baptist Christian. And so because I got over myself, I humbled myself because I was dying to get better. I was able to. With that said, let's review those steps. Step 1. You have to admit you are powerless over alcohol. Every day, I do admit that, because every day I do not pick up alcohol. Number 2, you have to believe that a greater power than us, it will take a greater power than you, one person, to restore yourself to sanity. So that is step 2. Just the belief that you will take more than just you to find sanity again. That's a pretty easy step for most of us who are losing control with alcohol. And then step 3 is you are ready and willing to turn your life over to a higher power or a greater good. Basically, again, it's a decision that you are going to let go and let God, as the quote goes, as the saying goes. But in reality, your God can just be love. It does not have to be a man in a sky. So get over yourself on that if that hangs you up. It hung me up. So just don't let it happen to you, because it's a waste of time. Step 4. Make that searching moral inventory. Step 4 is where we take inventory of the resentments, the grudges that live rent-free in your own mind. We take stock of those. We log them. We write. There's a lot of writing in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you review my other videos, you can see what I mean by that. Step 4 is basically you just writing down your resentments and your part in it and the solution. It's homework, yes. Again, more than just going to meetings to find that higher power, to find that psychic shift, that perspective shift that releases you from that obsession of the drink. It is a perspective shift, and it takes a lot of work. Moving on. Step 5. Oh yes. Admit your wrongs to yourself, to your higher power, and to another person. Now, this other person can be a close friend. It can also be a stranger or just another AA member. It can be a priest. It can be a therapist. It doesn't really matter who the person is as long as you trust them. The reason we admit our wrongs is because it holds us accountable. Accountable is important. Accountability is super important. Accountability and forgiveness, humility and trust are some of the biggest tenets of the Alcoholics Anonymous program. Accountability requires a witness because the definition of accountability is to explain. That's it. The quality or state of being accountable is accountability. And to be accountable is to explain. That's it. To explain. So in order to be accountable, we explain why we've done things. We explain our story. We explain our perspective. And that is all you have to do to be accountable. You admit it and explain it. Because in the explanation comes an inherent admission, of course. So that accountability is huge because so often we are drinking at ourselves. We're drinking because we feel guilty. We're drinking because we feel shame. We're drinking because we drank before and we're mad at ourselves. So why not just burn it all down and drink again? There's a million reasons that we drink, but there's only one reason to not. And that's to live, right? So as we are at step 5, admitting our wrongs to another person, ourselves, and a higher power, that in itself is the act of accountability. It's like if you were an offender bender and there were no witnesses, but you knew it was your fault and you knew that you should probably leave your phone number. A person who takes accountability is a person who leaves their name and number there or waits around for the owner of the other car in order to say, explain what they did, and admit it. That's accountability. It's really not that hard, but addicts have been conditioned at some point in their life to feel as though messing up is not okay, being less than perfect is not okay. And this applies to people who do not feel an addiction to alcohol, but a pull to fill the void. If you have a pull to fill the void, you can easily transcend into alcohol abuse, gambling addiction, shopping addiction, food addiction, sex and love addiction. And so as soon as we take accountability and we admit our wrong, we admit it, we explain it, we've done the accountability part. And therein lies how every day I'm doing step 5. Every day I'm doing step 5. Because if I make a mistake, which I do every single day of my life, at some point, I do have to admit my wrong and explain myself. Sometimes I'm late for 5 minutes and then I hold myself accountable. I admit it and I apologize, or I forewarn someone. If I go on pretending like I was never late, I never apologized, and I never forewarned, well, then I just look like a flake who doesn't care about my friend's time. And that is not who I want to be. And on a bigger scale, we have to apply that to our secrets. And for me, alcohol was my secret. I have many other harm reduction modalities in my life now that are not secretive. They do not tether me to a secret because they are things I feel no shame about. I feel fine taking accountability, announcing them to my family and friends. This is what I do. This is my life. This is my honest reality. This is who I am. And because I have no more secrets and accountability is king, I don't feel that pull to drink alcohol and numb the deep, deep pain, that deep pain of self-disappointment. Really, isn't that what we're numbing? Aren't we numbing that disappointment in self, whether it was to stand up for self or to back down and not do that thing? It's usually about self. And that leads us into where we left off, which is step 6. And again, you will do these all day, every day, in different orders, all the time. And this channel is my step 12. So with my step 12, I want you to go over step 6 with me, which says, we're entirely ready to have God or a higher power remove all these defects of character. And here we have our first introduction to the term defects of character. We reference now the fact that this book was written 90 years ago. And we have had many advancements, many longitudinal studies on psychiatric health, mental health, and mental care. And we know now that words matter, semantics matter, and definitions matter, which is why I told you the definition of accountable, which is just to admit and explain. So defects of character. Defects of character are what you will write down when you are examining yourself. And that will be your step 6. So on step 4, you have your chart of the resentments or grudges that take up rent in your mind. Take up space rent-free in your mind. And then you have your solution and your accountability. So your role in that step 4, that resentment, what is your role and what is the solution? Oftentimes in step 4, your role is ruminating on the past instead of action towards solution. Step 5 is writing down all those things that you have done wrong, that you feel, once again, take up rent. Sorry, it's late. My words are a little mixed up. Take up space rent-free in your mind. Step 5 goes along with that step 4. And as you admit those wrongs to yourself, to your higher power, and another person, what you will find is this freedom. The shame lifts. You don't have to tell the world. I'm not telling you my entire step 5. That's not where the freedom comes. The freedom comes in telling one other person. And if you truly can find a higher power, meaning an omnipotent presence to admit your wrongs to, admit it to a tree, maybe that is your higher power. But admitting it to a friend, a complete stranger, someone that might hold you accountable, this is what matters, because this is what accountability is in action, admitting and explaining. So that is step 4 and step 5. And you will constantly find in step 5, which is your defects of character. I like to call them maladaptive behaviors, not character defects, because I find they are not defects. Defects implies that it cannot be restored to like new, no matter what. Maybe almost like new, but not quite. But a maladaptive behavior implies that this was a learned mistake. And I do believe that about addicts. I believe we learn poor coping mechanisms. I believe we are taught poor self-talk. And so because of these reasons, I want to call our character defects actually maladaptive behaviors. If it's maladaptive, then we can adapt it. How do we adapt it? By practicing the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, including our homework, including admitting we're powerless every day, admitting it out loud, admitting our wrongs, making change when necessary, saying I'm sorry, and listing our maladaptive behaviors. There are little study guides that you can get, little helper cards that you can get wherever you can find AA literature, and it will help you articulate your assets and your liabilities. Your liabilities will be your maladaptive behaviors. or your character defects if you were writing a book 90 years ago. So for these, I like to share with you some suggestions. Liabilities are anger, self-pity, self-justification, self-importance, self-condemnation, dishonesty, impatience, hate, resentment, false pride, jealousy, envy, laziness, procrastination, insecurity, negative thinking, criticizing, and fear. These are all really natural human emotions, human feelings. And it's not bad to have these. They are normal. Alcoholics, drug addicts, people who do not have balance but have secrets in their lives, tend to have an imbalance of maladaptive behaviors, acting those out. So finding that balance between having these feelings and avoiding the acting out, that, and peace of mind and adaptive behaviors, that is the goal of Alcoholics Anonymous. So between 4, 5, and 6, what we can do is a lot of writing. Step 6 would be you making a list. You're going to make a list of your assets and your liabilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, your maladaptive behaviors, and your adaptive behaviors, your healthy coping mechanisms and your unhealthy coping mechanisms. However you want to look at it, the best thing is to wrap your head around this idea that you are a layered onion of a human. You are many things. You are many faceted. Your personality, who you are, your character is much faceted. And so we don't want to ignore this shadow self, this ugly self that tends to force us to act out in ways that we feel regretful for. Ignoring it, putting it away, trying to pretend like it's not there only gives it power. Imagine a fart that you're holding in. Think about it. It really wants to get out, and the more you hold it in, it just feels like it's getting stronger. It is. The pressure is building. Thus the release. And that is every day what it is to live as a human being. Constant pressure building, constant need for release. This is why we laugh and cry. This is why we sleep and wake. This is why we light and dark. This is why we normal and we orgasm. This yin and yang is super important, and it is the secret to happiness, that balance. A little of this, a little of that, a little of this, a little of that. And so 4, 5, and 6 are really important homework steps for you to incorporate accountability. And when you learn accountability, you learn forgiveness. Because as soon as you start taking accountability, it feels so good, you can't stop. You get the best reaction out of people. And then you start to just genuinely forgive yourself for the mistakes, for the maladaptive behaviors. You begin to forgive yourself for all the things you've done that make you hate yourself and force you to want to numb out with the drink. This is the homework that is not as easy as the quick fix of the bottle. Now I have harm reduction. There are many things in my life that I do instead of drink. Read the big book is one of them. Call my sponsor is another. Take my meds is another. Exercise is another. Journal. My homework of 4, 5, and 6. And we'll get to the other homework later that I do. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves or confuse you. You're doing great this far. If you have stayed this far, I thank you. It's challenging to talk about stuff that's hard. stuff that's not sexy, stuff that people don't really want to hear, which is why rock bottom is so important for change. We need to be sick and tired of feeling sick and tired to make a change, because we are creatures of habit. And drinking is just a habit, a poor habit, but one nonetheless. Now I will read the promises of Alcoholics Anonymous from page 83. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. And if that word God bothers you like it does me, you call that your higher power, you call that love, you call that goodness, you call that Mother Nature or the universe. I believe there was just a typo. The word isn't God, the word is good. They missed one O. How can good be divisive? It can't, which is why it should be the correct word for higher power, good. So it is true. These promises do come true. Things that used to baffle me no longer baffle me. Meaning, how am I going to get all this done? How am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to get up in the morning after drinking all night? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Now I got it all done until I didn't, but I was baffled as how I was going to get it all done. And I pulled it off for many years. And I didn't realize I was an alcoholic till I was fully addicted, which is why they call it progressive. It adds up, it adds up, it adds up. And you're not actually addicted until you've been exposed for a long period of time. And by then it's habitual. So the promises say that your whole outlook will change. And that is true. But that does not mean that you become this flowery, tree huggery, definitely religious, definitely happy all the time type of hippy dippy person. Woo woo. No. We must look at Alcoholics Anonymous as a framework for living, steps for achieving a successful, content, happy life. Accountability, admitting what you're good at, what you're not good at. Admitting what you can control, what you can't control, and finding something bigger than yourself, even if it's a group of drunks, G-O-D, then that is okay. I have to reiterate the same thing over and over. Alcoholics Anonymous works if you work it, because it's a lifetime program. You don't really get to give up. Sure, some of us stop going to meetings. Some of us get away from the program. But every meeting I go to, I see someone who has not been to a meeting in a while. And there's always someone coming back being like, you know what? My life is becoming unmanageable again. I'm not drinking, but I'm not applying the steps to my life. And I need to come back and I need to talk to y'all. And every time I go to a meeting, online or in person, definitely in person, always online, but for sure in person even more, I get uplifted. And it is not because it's a bunch of God people or there's donuts or that they feel bad for me or they validate my existence. I feel better because I feel seen, which I guess is a validation of my existence. But it's not grandiose. It's not a spotlight necessarily. The spotlight at an AA meeting is the most seen you will ever be. It is the most seen you will ever feel. More than your life partner while you're naked. Because your life partner probably has biases. But these people, they don't know you. They just know you're suffering the way they did. And I know that you're suffering the way I did. And that's okay, because that's the human condition. And we are striving for this balance, which is why we do our journaling. We take accountability. We find out what we resent, whatever is taking up space rent-free in our mind, and we find a solution. We are solution-based people. With that said, let's talk about what it means to forgive. What does it mean to forgive? Well, I'll tell you what the Webster's Dictionary says. And it says to forgive is to cease to feel resentment against an offender, to grant relief from. That's it. Release resentment. That's all forgive means. So when people say, I can't forgive, all they're saying is, I can't let go of anger. I want to hold on to anger. I like anger. I like grudges. I like ruminations of hatred and resentment. That's what they're saying. And I think if most people understood that to forgive means to cease to feel resentment, I think they would allow themselves the gift of forgiveness. I have been able to forgive my own father for the rapes, for the sexual assaults, for the inappropriate language, for all of it, the neglect. I forgive him. The way I came to forgiveness was adulthood, parenthood, suffering through alcohol addiction, and seeing my father as a human being. I was probably 30 years old before I realized my father was only 23 when he had me. Wow, that's young. And in that moment, it's around 30, 31, 32. Not that moment, but that time, that period, I was able to let go easily of the resentment and the hatred for my father, because knowing someone is human allows them flaws. And it's important to look at ourselves. If we are being hypercritical of people in our lives, it's because we are feeling extra flawed. When we're feeling extra discontent in our lives, it's because we are feeling wounded. Our scabs are lifted off of the past wounds. And to find relief, to find happiness, we have to embody acceptance. And acceptance and accountability, whoa, ACC, that's a lot of ACCs. But I CCC it. That acceptance is taking accountability for the fact that you cannot change the entire world. In fact, you can't even change the guy sitting right next to you on an airplane. You have no control over him. I mean, you kind of do if you're nice. You also do if you're mean. But where are you going to get yourself, right? Big picture, play the tape, and follow through. It's important for us when we feel the urge to drink to stop, pause, think, play the tape. I drink, then what happens? This happens, then what happens? This happens, then what happens? This happens. And if we pause, if we learn to pause, which the obsession of alcohol does not allow very often, if we can pause, play the tape in our mind, we will often find that we have the strength to make a contrary action. And that's what you're going to want to do. When you're feeling a strong pull towards something that you know is not good for you, you're going to take a contrary action. Just go the opposite. You want to go Drink alone? Nope. Go find a friend and drink coffee instead. And you will be happier. And every time you do that, you build little blocks of confidence and self-trust, accountability, and acceptance over and over. And therefore, this big stack of forgiveness happens. And therein lies the relief, the freedom. The weight is lifted of any obsession. Because obsession is just anxiety manifesting. And when we're doing this homework, when we're thinking through, when we're feeling our bodies, addressing it now, it cannot gain power. It cannot gain strength. We have the ability to actually understand that truly we do not want to self-destruct. That is a learned behavior, a coping mechanism that does not serve us any longer, which is why we seek to get better. And it's there. It's there for us. I was a knockdown, drag out, blackout drunk. It was messy. And the importance of self-forgiveness is where the freedom lies. And every time I admit a wrongdoing to someone I truly trust, I build trust with them. Every time I am vulnerable with someone I trust, I build trust with them. I can build trust. I don't have to wait for life to show me opportunities to glean trust from another human. And that is what your recovery will look like. It will look like you rebuilding trust. Now, as we go, you can admit your wrongs to people. You can go back and make amends at any time. The only rule there is don't make anything worse. But in reality, the true amends comes to self. And everything else can fall into place, and we'll get there with amends. It's important to care for that inner child. This week I did roller skating. I wonder what you did to embrace your inner child. I wonder if you have hobbies that you like that help you embrace your inner child. There's a big world out there, and there's a million other things to do that are better than drinking. And if we continue to take accountability and accept life on life's terms, we will find self-forgiveness. And I will leave you with the acceptance prayer today. I say this every day to help ground myself and understand where my power lies. My power lies in my root chakra, my perineum. Look up your root chakra and start exploring it, especially if you're a middle-aged woman. Your root chakra will help you get into your body, whereas AA helps you get into your mind. Recovery is holistic. It's not just in the mind. It's not just cerebral. It's also somatic, which is the word for in your body. So look up root chakra, how to engage it. The color that symbolizes your root chakra is red. So eat something red tomorrow and explore what it feels like to sit in a position that might engage your root chakra. And then say this to yourself. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or some situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitude. Some things that get better when you stop drinking are less anxiety, better sleep. I don't have heart palpitations. I don't have crippling stomach pain. I don't wake up with regret and wonder what happened the night before, cringing at the idea of what could have been or what actually was, and when the recording will show up. This world can be full of challenges, but self-love is the biggest challenge for those of us who have survived abuse and are living with CPTSD, which I am. I still see a therapist. I still go to AA meetings. I still take my antidepressants, and I employ other harm reduction modalities to help keep me off the bottle, because the reality is alcohol is the most, as Charlie Sheen would put it, gnarly drug on the planet. Most other illicit substances are used in excess in conjunction with alcohol. And just a reminder, I was drugged 4 different times. 4. All in alcohol. That's something that never needs to happen to anyone. And I do believe that it would happen to less people if people weren't making decisions while inebriated. With that said, I wonder about your thoughts on all the homework. I wonder what you think about working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. As before I joined the program, I had no idea what that meant. I say mantras or meditations. Some people call them prayers. I call my friends. I take care of myself, and I go on walks. I encourage y'all to go on a walk. I'll check you soon. I'll take you on a secret stairs expedition. And I will try to get back into reading the big book on our next episode. This was just a recap of the top 6 steps. And again, you can do these in any order. Taking accountability, meaning admitting your faults or your behavior and explaining it, is the quickest way to emotional shame freedom. And that's it for me tonight. I'm pretty tired. Things have been busy lately. But I appreciate you hanging out with me and listening to my perspective about Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps, and what it means to work them. I appreciate your time. Remember, no drinking. Keep flossing. Keep smiling. Namaste.